Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter, and today I'm painting Goroth of the Goroth and Zakdush set, issued by Games Workshop, and I'm gonna show you guys how I painted him. But before we go any further, I would love it if you leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and hit that like button because I would like that very much. Before I started painting this model, I added some modeling sand to the base, and then primed it in a black color. You can do it with a gray, but this is going to be mostly a dark colored miniature, so a dark base color would suffice very good. Now the face is the prime feature of this model, and I base coated that with Doombull Brown. Doombull Brown has kind of an orangey look already, but we're going to brighten it up just a little more to get that unique brown-orange orc skin. Next step is highlighting that with Scrag Brown, and the way I'm doing it is I'm applying that to the upper regions of the face, so the cheekbones, the eyebrows, the edges of the mouth, the chin, the double chin in his case. So I'm covering most of the previously painted area, but leaving some dark areas as they are. And what you can do is define those lines and then kind of wet blend the same color over the rest. So leaving a thinner version of Scrag Brown on the previously painted Doombull Brown. As an extreme highlight, I'm using Cadian Flesh Tone. I'm just focusing on the very edges beside the mouth, the cheekbones, and the eyebrows. Tiny corner here because his face is sticking out sideways. Just to the very parts that would catch the most light. And that's it for the face. Next up is the eyes. Very tiny dot of Palette Witch Flesh because I want to have some dark surrounding it, preferably the original black in the eye socket. So you get a nice kind of shaded eye. Try and paint in a tiny pupil and you're done. I'm using a dry brush to paint the majority of the armor with Leadbelcher. It can be kind of blotchy and it doesn't have to be everywhere. It's a worn down piece of equipment. Then the cloth beneath with a mixture of Abaddon Black and dried bark. And also the pieces of cloth just barely visible between the armor on his arms. Now I'm painting the back with Thondia Brown. He has this separate kind of cloth, leathery patch of sorts stuck to his back. And it makes him a little bit more interesting when using different colors. Now I'm using Corn Red as a second layer to this color. And there is some tiny parts showing between his arms, the tips of his sleeves, for which I used the same base coat of Thondia Brown and Corn Red. You can leave some of the Thondia Brown shining through by using the same technique as I used on the face. So paint the outlines, paint the majority of the upper parts of this cloth, and the deeper regions you kind of wash with the same color, so a thinned down version. Next I'm using pure dried bark to highlight the cloth we painted before. You can use large areas of cloth because it can be a little bit brighter than the base color. Just leave those very dark spaces dark. but the majority is reflecting light, so it should be brighter. I also painted the staff of his weapon with this color. Next we're going to be highlighting the dried bark in combination with a Baneblade brown and kind of paint these tiny fringes to the cloth as if it were torn. I imagine this would be a worn piece of cloth. He doesn't have a new wardrobe. He's making do with what he has. So do some edge highlighting here and there and add some of those vertical stripes to make it look more worn. I'm taking it a tiny step further by adding pure Baneblade brown and doing the exact same thing on the very edges and the very bottom of the cloth. He's wearing gloves and I painted those with Corvus Black. It's a nice, very dark gray actually. And it's a nice addition to the color set we have. And then define the fingers with Mechanicus Standard Gray. Now the knuckles I painted with Administratum Gray, just to give them some extra definition. And I think the result looks really nice. Then Steel Legion Drab I used for the straps, the belt around his body. Again, a different color, just to add some more detail to the model. Otherwise he would be really dark. I'm highlighting this with Baneblade brown as well. If you want to go a bit brighter, you can add some Palette Witch Flesh to the mix. Next, back to the Corvus Black to paint the base color of the hair. There's a tiny piece of hair coming from beneath his helmet here. I want to give it a black grayish look. Next I'm highlighting the hair with Skavenblight Dinge. Try and pick out each individual strain of hair. Next I made a wash of Black Templar, thinning it down a little bit and adding it to some creases on the armor, the helmet for example, just to give it some extra detail, some sharpness, some cracks. You can use Null Null if you want, but Null Null tends to tone down the silver look and I didn't really want that. I also used this Black Templar to paint the inside of his mouth. Then I painted in the teeth in his mouth with Karak Stone. It gives a nice dirty look to the teeth. There's not much of them in his mouth, but the ones that are there, they deserve our attention, don't they? And then it's time for the base. Dried bark, applied purely to the base. You can water it down just a little bit to make it smoother, and it doesn't have to be everywhere. It's a dirty sand look we're going for. Once dried, highlight that with Baneblade brown using a dry brush. This way you create some nice extra highlights on the very tops of the dried up sand. We are now taking it one step further by using pure Palette Witch Flesh and again the dry brush, and very, very gently wipe over the very tips of your sand grains. And that should give you a nice result. Now add some modeling grass or tufts or whatever you want to the base and you're done. And here's our final result. Goroth, Captain of Mordor. Fearsome looking warrior with a nice orange orc skin. I hope this tutorial was of any help to you guys. Please leave a comment below and tell me how you fared in your endeavor. And if you like this kind of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, as I will be making a lot more videos and I'll keep you posted. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in one of my next ones. Bye bye!